Hi, listeners. This is Grant for Brutally Delicious, back once again for another little segment that we like to call Heavy Hearts, where we're having meaningful discussions with people in metal and the arts about mental health, its causes, its effects, and what it means to us. I'm here with James from the band Rorschach Test. James, thank you very much for joining me, mate.
Oh, thank you for having me. What an honor to be on this podcast, especially. And I think it's great that we're talking about something that's so relevant.
Glad to hear it, man. We'll get the little plugs out of the way, because we are speaking to musicians at the end of the day. I know Rorschach Test are working on a new album. How's that coming along, dude?
Oh, it's coming along great. I'm actually working with Julian Beeston. You know who that is?
I'm not familiar, if
Yeah.
I'm perfectly honest
So
with you.
Julian's been in a few bands, over the years. He's actually started a few bands over the years. One was called Prodigy. Another was called Nitzareb. Another was called Cubanate. So in the industrial world, that's everything. He's like a god in industrial programming, and it's just an amazing producer as well. So I'm having a great time with him, laying down the skeletal tracks, as they say. And then Chris Canella and Luis Khalil are going to jump on top and provide the heaviness, the guitar. Chris is, he's just coming off of finishing with Deicide, and now he is on tour with Malevolent Creation. And then when he gets done with that, we get to have him. And Luis Khalil is, if you can write that name down, I would advise you do, because this kid's going to be, he's definitely the next Jeff Loomis. He is just incredible. He was discovered at the age of 14 in South America, in kind of a war-torn neighborhood that he lived in. And someone discovered him, brought him to the U.S., set him up with a scholarship to go to a music school. And at the age of 14, he was a prodigy, And that person was Chris Canella, because he worked for ESP Guitars. So pretty cool story. Yeah.
Awesome,
Jason
man.
Kowalski is going to be on drums too, and he's amazing as well. So
Absolutely fantastic. We're looking forward to it, man.
yeah.
Let's dive straight in. I keep this free and chaotic, as anybody that's seen one of my little Happy Heart segments is concerned. We're talking about mental health and music. James, the floor is yours. What does it mean to you?
Yeah.
What does it say to you?
Well, personally, I've made I've never tried to cover up the fact that I've had my struggles in both mental health and substance use disorder. They're related, by the way. One feeds the other throws up and then feeds the other, and it's a vicious cycle. But when I started looking into finding relief personally, I didn't do it half-ass. I eventually went to college, got a degree in behavioral health, and really dove deep into the subject, trying to figure out, why it is that I was having these struggles. And what I learned was that they estimate that 87% of what are called professional musicians, those that say that they're going to do music for a living, 87% of that community has come forward and said that they at one time or another have struggles with mental health or substance use disorders. That's a huge percent. That means only 13% aren't telling the truth. you know? So, so I'm just wondering, in looking at that, I'm like, wow, 87%. Why is it specifically in the music community? Why musicians? You know, why do we seem to be more apt to get involved in things like drug abuse or activities that lead to negative mental health consequences? And there's a lot of answers to that question that I'm finding that are not really too pleasant to talk about, especially in a podcast like this. But a lot of it has to do with trauma, as that's kind of a buzzword in mental health. But what I also found in interviewing people and talking to other musicians, probably the single most driving factor in terms of anxiety, poor mental health, and substance use disorder. Do you know what it is? It's their relationship with their label and their business relationship with the music industry. And I find that fascinating because, you know, I was talking to a group of musicians the other day, who I'm going to help develop here in Phoenix. The name of this band is going to be called Sweet Cherry Syrup. Their name, they picked it, not me. Sweet Cherry Syrup. But I'm starting to help them and develop them. And they told me that even to this day, there's that fantasy that musicians have about getting signed. Oh, I want to get signed so bad. So and so from Columbia Records is coming to the show tonight. We better do good because we might get signed. And there's this picture of everybody sitting in a room and getting a gold pen out and signing this great contract. And I mean, do you happen to know what those contracts say? I've done 6 of them in my life.
I've only ever signed one in my entire life, and I was fully aware that I was signing my life away. So,
Right, right. Well, there's. Let me just put it another way. Let's say that I came to you and I said, "Hey, Grant, check this thing out," and you'd never seen an iPhone before, and you were like, "Wow, that's really cool. How did you do that?" Well, you know, I spent many years of my life invested in this, and I developed it, and I created it finally. And the problem is, Grant, I only have one of these, and what I need is some capital, somebody that can help me produce a whole bunch of them, and distribute them, and market them, and make sure people are aware of them. What do you think a fair commission for your helping me financially would be? What would that be? What
am
would
I,
a
st- am
fair
I, am I talking
yeah.
from the record company view here? Because it's
No,
probably
no,
about
I'm talking about
0.5%.
regular, normal. I'm talking about the real world. The real
Yeah,
world would say, well, as an investor, I'm going to have to take 30%.
yeah.
And and that'd be like, wow, okay, 30% of my profits go to you because you advanced me money to get going. Okay, I'll do it. I'll sign. But with a record label, the good deals the best deal you're going to get today is 16 points. They call it points, by the way, to throw you off, not percent. They're like 16 points on the record. Why is it points? We're not keeping score here. It's a percentage. 16 points on the record, right? So you're like, okay, 16%. That's what I get. So if you sell a $10 album, I get $1.60. Yeah, but we're going to do all the work for you. We're going to promote you. We're going to put you on tour. We're going to get you in movies. We're going to do all this stuff for you. You're like, ugh, well, I suppose I can do that for a while, maybe. Okay. Well, here's the thing: is they will put you on tour, and they will get you licensing deals, and they will distribute your album everywhere, and then they'll send you a bill, and you'll say, "What? 12 million? What? How did I? How did I? How did you? I didn't authorize 12 million to be spent." Oh yeah, you did when you signed the contract. And by the way, you have to pay all that back to us. And there's one more thing: you have to pay it out of your 16%. It's not out of the whole apple. So, what kind of a deal is that? And I'll tell you, when a musician realizes that thing that they've been hoping for their whole life, the signing of the deal, when they figure out that what just happened is they became a slave to a label, to a corporation, that can be very depressing. That can be also disheartening. That can lead to all sorts of poor mental health choices and substance use disorder choices. It can drive that. And I'm just speaking from the heart here. My cousin was an incredible metal musician. His name was Worrell Dane. And Worrell sang for a band called Nevermore as well as Sanctuary, and he had a solo records out as well. He died in South America. He struggled with addictions and mental health his whole life. And you know, what's really disgusting is that after he passed away, guess how much his family receives from all of the work that he's done as a musician? Because he sold more copies in the month after his death than the rest of his entire career. How much did his family get? Why? Label owns it all. Why? Because it's in the contract. Why? Because they know that there comes a time as a musician when you're worth more dead than you are alive. Whitney Houston is the classic example. One of the single highest paid artists ever after she died. So
And another tragic
I'm
story of
just I'm
substance
just
abuse.
saying, you know, and I'm not saying that every label is evil or you know anything of that nature. What I'm saying is we need to wake up. The world needs to wake up to the fact that one of their favorite things in life, which is music, is made by people like myself and all these other musicians. And for years, we have done nothing but taken absolute abuse from the music business. So, you know, yeah, I'm passionate about that, obviously, and I'm also very convinced that it's a driving factor in a lot of the mental health that's going on with musicians, in particular, why they have an 87% diagnosis rate. And I think we can change that. I mean, it starts with the fan base saying that they're not going to support these absolute greedy giants anymore, and they can go directly to the artist. What a concept! You know, if they like you, if they like your band, if they like your music, send them to a site where they can support you directly and get that middleman out of the way. Because honestly, Grant, in today's world with the internet, um, why do we need a middleman? We should be able just to be accessed by anyone in the world, you know. But once again, those gates are closing up as well. You
You
know,
preempted a little bit about what I was going to say there. Do you think that we're in a little bit of a catch-22 situation with the digital internet age in music? You know, it's incredibly easy to get your music out there,
right,
but
right,
it's very difficult to be heard because everybody can
yeah,
get the music out there.
sure. Sure. Well, you know, the last record we put out last Halloween, Fallen. Okay, one song on that album, which is called "Belated," it's very much about mental health. That has, last time I checked, it's at 287,000 streams. Okay, so just take a moment and think if that was 287 45s or
Yeah.
CDs or you know single LPs. How much money would have that generated for the artist? An incredible amount, you know, a lot, millions actually. So, however, now that we're onto this digital thing, and I'm not 100% against it, but I would like to point out that the pay rate, once again, which started out not even reasonable, but you know, musicians were getting a check for $500-600 a month from the streams when it first came out, and they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And now we're down to the fact that Spotify, for example, will only pay you if a premium, a subscriber listens to you, not just anyone listening to Spotify for free. And then also they'll only pay you on a scale that is so incredibly ridiculous. For 1 million streams, how much money will I make? Do you have any idea?
Last I remember on Spotify, what was 0.002 cents a stream or something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So for a
that's like
million, yeah, just
$100.
go to Chat GPT and say how many streams do I have to have on Spotify to make $100, and you'll be shocked. You know, I mean that's and you know if you really break it down to the bare bones of what this says to musicians is what? That your music, your art, your creativity, everything you slaved over, the pouring out of your soul and making it transparent is worth this. Here's what it's worth. Fall in line, shut up, do what you're supposed to do, and maybe years later you can be a Taylor Swift or a U2 and make lots of money. Okay. But for now, you are just a serial number. You're a slave. You know, I think a lot of the language that we even have applied to music is very telling. I mean, what do we call the original recording? What do we call it? The
Master.
master. The master recording. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think we can change this. I really do, but it would have to be a movement of the fan base to choose supporting the artist over convenience, and that's really hard to get people to do. If I could just start a streaming service myself, I would, but I've looked into that, and that's kind of difficult too. That's why those giants came in and took it over. And by the way, the guy who owns Spotify, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but if you get him in a room full of instruments, he doesn't know how to play any of them. Okay, he's not qualified to evaluate my music. Okay, I don't appreciate the fact that he says my music is worth 0.0000175 cents per stream. Because to me, it's worth a lot more than that, and to others that listen to Rorschach Test, they feel the same way. So I don't know. We may not. It's like throwing a match at the sun. It's really. I don't think my little voice is going to change the world. I don't have any illusions of that. But even if I can make just the smallest dent at all in the universe and start creating some better consciousness, not only to this, but to lots of concepts in the music business, which are unhealthy. And I think they're all connected. Can I just tell you something that when I was with Imagine Entertainment out of New York, I had a really bad addiction to cocaine. Bad. Had to have it every day, type of thing. And my A&R guy, who aptly had the last name Fiend. I think his real name was something else, but he called himself Fiend. He knew that I had that problem because we had partied together when we got signed to Imagine. Partied with him, partied with the owners, the CEOs, and everybody knew. Okay, so with that knowledge, and then seeing how I couldn't even really get out of bed or do anything unless I was sure that I was going to have my blow for the day. What would be the appropriate response by an employer, a label, somebody that's involved in your life personally? What would the appropriate response be?
The intervention, rehab,
Sure.
a friendly
Yeah.
chat.
Right. So no, the response for me was, whenever you need it, call this pager number and it will be delivered to you. So, um, you know, and it really kept me um, focused on what I really wanted to do in life, which was get high. That's all I was doing. And tragically, it affected lots of other lives besides mine. And so for that, I'm paying a lifetime amends. And that's why I decided when I the came out of the darkness again and resurfaced and put that new album out, that it was going to be about that, and that I was going to make sure that people who listen to my band, at least, they need to know that if you're going through it, if you're down in it right now and you're struggling, you're having thoughts of maybe harming yourself or other people, you're addicted to something or many things. Whatever the case may be, you're definitely not alone. And it is possible to come back from something like that and to find relief. And so I kind of want to model that for others and help as many as I can as well. And that's what Unlabeled Artists is all about. That's a 501c3 that I've started, a charity that I've started in Arizona. The reason I classified it as a charity is because I can actually get our government to give funding to musicians who are diagnosed with substance use disorders or mental health conditions. So they can focus on their recovery and focus on their craft and their art. And that funding comes from programs that, are trying to make people self-sufficient and get off of welfare here in this country. And so I've got a whole group of them, 87% of them, of the music community. So yeah, we're excited about that. We've got 2 artists that have come on board so far, and we hope to develop many more in the future. And like I said, may not be much, but maybe we can just make a small little dent into that glass ceiling that needs to be so cracked. I tell you, the world needs to understand how it happens and what works. What happens when a band or a musician signs to one of these major labels. It's not right. We get upset at child labor, right? 25 cents an hour. We get upset at human trafficking and slavery. Well, this is not far from that, Grant. It really isn't. So, do you have any idea what the average yearly income is of a full-time musician in the world? If you took everyone and averaged it out, and that includes Paul McCartney and the Rolling Stones, you take
it
them
also includes a
all and you
busker on the
average
street,
it
though.
out. Yeah, it's
£500 a
about
year.
$12,000 a year, and that's because those superstars threw their pots into the average. If they took them out,
Yeah,
we'd be at like child labor type of things, the 25 cent an hour. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why does this group of people who give so much joy and everything else to the world, why do we get the shaft like we do? And why does everyone just keep putting up with it? Why? I think that's one thing we can change, along with our focus on mental health and substance use disorder, saying that it's okay to admit that you have these things in your life, because that means that you're on the track of recovery because you're honest. Everyone that's hearing this podcast right now, if you're honest, you're going to admit that at times you struggle with mental health as well. Everyone does. Look at it this way. We don't really get too concerned over people that get a cold, right? Or the flu twice a year or whatever it may be. I got a sore throat 3 times a year. That doesn't mean that I'm a leper and that you should separate me from the rest of the community. It just means I'm human. And sometimes my physical biodome gets invaded by a virus or whatever. Well, sometimes in our mind gets a cold. Sometimes mentally we get the flu. That doesn't make us lepers, or we shouldn't be classified as sick for the rest of our lives. Here in Arizona they have what's called SMI classification. SMI sounds like a show you can see on CBS every Friday night. It stands for serious mental illness. So if you have that SMI card, they give you a card and everything. If you have it in your wallet, that means that you are on the government's payroll for pretty much the rest of your life. They're going to give you, a little bit of money every month to live and eat. And what are you going to do with your time? You're going to go to basically adult daycare centers all day, and they're going to feed you with very powerful narcotics and prescription drugs that will keep you, basically unable to do anything else with your life. a zombie because you're seriously mentally ill.